Hello, I'm Sayojita. No, I'm not making a vegetable dish. Today's dish is a roti. Whole wheat and methi rotis. A specialty from Gujarat, Methi Theplas. Delicious, nutritious, and they can serve as a snack or an accompaniment. All you need is a chutney, a pickle, and raita, and you're all set. Theplas are unusual rotis. They are designed to stay fresh at room temperature for a long time. Perfect for picnics and long journeys. No fear of spoiling. That also makes them convenient in today's hectic lifestyles. Make them over the weekend and enjoy them over the week. There is one caveat, however. You cannot be completely spontaneous with making theplas. You have to source the methi, pick the leaves, wash off all the grit and chop the methi before you can make the rotis. Not to worry, with my recipe and my method, you will eliminate all these difficulties. You can't avoid rolling though. For vegan theplas, you can just skip the yogurt. It doesn't make an appreciable difference. Let's take a look.
First, I'm going to show you the methi. These are the dehydrated fresh methi leaves that we are going to use. And I'm going to show you a little clip of how I do this right here. This is what we start with. Lots of methi, from which I have about 4 cups of leaves and tender stems. There's no need to chop them and no need to dry the leaves completely. Apply a little oil on the leaves and microwave them on high heat. This is what we have after 10 minutes in the microwave. The methi is crisp and dry and crumbles easily, which is why we don't need to chop it beforehand. And we have the same characteristic aroma of fresh methi leaves. Make a batch and store it in the refrigerator. It stays there for months. It's much easier to make theplas if you don't have to deal with washing and chopping the methi every time. Now to make the dough, start with the dry ingredients. 2 cups of whole wheat flour or atta, about 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, it's optional, half a teaspoon of turmeric, chili powder to taste. I'm using about half a teaspoon. You can use more if you like. Mix the dry ingredients. This is a 3/4 cup of dehydrated methi, which is about 1 to 1.5 cups of fresh leaves. If you're using fresh methi, it should be washed and chopped fine. And you should mix it in after we mix the oil. 3 tablespoons of oil. Mix it in. And then we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of yogurt. The large quantity of oil is required for the theplas to stay at room temperature for a few days. If you want to eat them right away, you can reduce the oil content. However, the distinctive texture of the theplas does come from the oil. The additional oil also helps to roll thin theplas. Thepla dough is quite stiff, so we do not need too much water. About 3/4 cup of water for 2 cups of atta. I'm using warm water because my atta is stone ground and that helps soften the fiber. Knead it, make a ball and set it aside for about 30 minutes. This is a good texture. It's not as loose as chapati dough, but it's still soft enough to make the balls of dough without too much difficulty. Well, 30 minutes later, here's the dough. Knead it a couple of times and make the balls. I'm making smaller theplas today, about 5 to 6 inches, so I have 20 balls. Since the dough is stiff, ball making is harder than that for chapatis. But rolling the rotis is much easier. Okay then, let's roll the theplas. I'm using dry flour, a combination of atta and rice flour as usual. You can also use oil. Make sure the edges of the dough disc are smooth without any cracks, otherwise your thepla will have jagged edges, which is alright if you're just making them for home. Theplas are a bit different from methi parathas. Unlike parathas, the dough is not folded while rolling. It's just rolled into a circle like a fulka, and they are thinner. Okay, I think this is thin enough. I've already kept my tawa on the stove to heat. Drop the roti on the tawa. Drizzle oil on the sides. Once again, you do need the oil for the texture and the taste, but also if you want them to last. So you can choose to vary the amount of oil as per your use. Both sides are nicely roasted and it's done. drop it onto the stack. I'm going to show you the texture of one of the theplas. Unlike a chapati, which is a little soft and needs to be torn, a thepla breaks fairly easily. In that sense, it is more brittle, but it's soft, it's not hard. As you reduce the quantity of oil in the dough, the thepla will be more and more like a chapati. Well, here we are. I've served my theplas with sweet mango pickle, pumpkin raita, and green coriander chutney.
So before we close this video, I thought I would show you these theplas that I made 2 days ago, and the texture is just the same, and so is the taste. If you found this video useful, I have a playlist on various Indian rotis for you right here. Do check it out. I'll see you again next week. Thank you for watching.